What the cuss is up? This is not just any book club. Bookends or between the chat? No, it's bookends. Hello, I am Justin, and this is my co-host Pierce, and we both recently watched the movie, The Fantastic Mr. Fox, which came out in 2009. Yeah. And I also read the book a while back, and so my order of it was movie, book, and then movie, all within the span of a couple years of each other. So, yeah, today, for this month, in the month of, what month are we in? Oh boy, April of 2022 is Roald Dahl month, which, if you don't know who that is, well, I never read his book. You do
know who that is. You just don't know that you know who that is. He wrote like a bunch of the books that were adapted into the movies that were like our generation and millennials' childhoods.
I mean, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory came out in the 60s.
Charlie and the Chocolate, yeah, okay. So I was referencing the other movies too. When did Matilda come out?
90s?
I just remember
in the 90s.
Okay, it's older now.
I know Danny DeVito produced that movie.
Anyways, he wrote the stories that were one generation's childhoods, and then probably at least one movie per generation has been made since all of his books came out. I would say bare minimum one that was a part of their like childhood.
That sounds right.
That's accurate.
That sounds right. I don't know enough about these generations to really argue with that. So let's just say, for the sake of moving on, sure. But yeah, The Fantastic Mr. Fox. What did Pierce think about it?
I really liked it. I immediately looked up a bunch of stuff about it, including like the cast, which is pretty star-studded for an animated feature.
Well, that's Wes Anderson for you.
Right, exactly. And then I also found out that it lost Best Animated Feature to Up that year.
Which, do you like the movie Up? I really do.
I really do like the movie Up, but I feel like it
people say it's the first 15
close.
Yeah, it should have been a lot closer. But that was a good year for animation. The Princess and the Frog came out, and I'm pretty sure there was another movie that came out in 2009. Pretty good year for animation. And this was like when the animation hit like kind of like a ghetto age, because I think this is around the time when Cartoon Network was going like CN Real, because they're like, cartoons are going out of style. So here we are.
And now here we are, more than a decade later, and cartoons should probably come back into style because people like them.
Bob's Burgers, and in movie theaters at least, because you know what, 2D animation should make a comeback. Even though we're not talking about a 2D animated movie, but yeah. But
animation is kind of making a comeback and should.
Spider-Verse, let's go.
Spider-Verse. There have been several like adult animated TV shows that have come out in the past few years.
Yeah, animation is not just for kids. It's it's a medium, not just for everyone. For everyone.
For everyone.
Yes. And speaking of animation, Fantastic Mr. Fox. Pierce really enjoyed it. I watched this movie twice. Again, years apart. The first time I watched it, I really did not like it. I almost hated it. Second time I watched it, and I also swore off Wes Anderson because I'm like, oh man, Wes Anderson is just so quirky. And that's still
this is an animated movie about
no
anthropomorphic fox.
Okay, but that's present in all his movies. Have you seen Isle of Dogs, by the way?
I've been meaning to rewatch it. I did see it, but it was situational. I couldn't really pay as much attention as I wanted to. So I want to rewatch it because what I was able to pay attention to, I really enjoyed.
Okay.
What did you think about Isle of Dogs?
It had everything. I didn't like it very much. I watched it in theaters.
Everything you don't like about Wes
Anderson. He's very idiosyncratic. You know, I guess we're gonna talk about his directing style. Everything is shot like in a medium shot, and it's very symmetrical. And the way that they write dialogue is that it's just very, very blunt, and it's always off, just a little bit off.
Yeah, I haven't seen much Wes Anderson, and I've been meaning to just because like he's such a famous director at this point. Um, for like,
Yeah,
modern age, whatever.
for
Uh,
hipsters.
uh, yeah, for hipsters. I've been meaning to. So, I guess this is one thing. I know
Yeah,
that I feel obviously this is a Wes Anderson movie, but I feel like because it's also Roald
animated
Dahl, it has and animated, it kind of has its own like
identity.
separate thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Isle of Dogs, I do correspond that with Wes Anderson. I don't this as much, even though obviously his style is going to be present in it.
Very interesting. But yeah, I would assume you're right. Maybe that's why this is a lot of people's favorite Wes Anderson movie, and the exception to Wes Anderson haters like me. I mean, okay, I've seen Moonrise Kingdom. I don't like very much, again, because it's always so quirky and idiosyncratic, and they insist on. I don't know. His style is just not for me, and I've tried every single time. It's
Justin has to justify his Wes Anderson opinions
yeah.
on.
No. It's either you love it or hate it. He panders to a very specific um group of people that will like his movies, and I'm glad that these movies are being made and that
Mm.
okay. They're not super successful, but there are that they're still being made, and that they have an audience and they have a following and they have critical acclaim. It's just like every time I watch one of his movies, because I always try to give him a chance, it grates on me. There's some parts about it that I really enjoy, but the dialogue always kills me. It's just like and how the characters speak and everything. That's his directing style. If you like it, good for you. It's just but this movie's pretty lit. Fantastic Mr. Fox. Um I don't know. Maybe it's just the way that it was. I can't describe what works with this movie that the others don't. I think it's because it has a lot more to say about like a midlife crisis. Okay, we're both in our 20s, so we can't really talk about our midlife crisis yet,
Yeah.
unless we're living to the age of 40. But it's just that it's talking about like these universal themes that you probably want to be watching in a kids movie. It feels like that that probably could only be told through animation, obviously because it's about a fox. But like, it really uses its medium to its
It
advantage.
it separates it. It's kind of like the best part of any fantastical movie where it can talk about what is like a very real and probably very depressing issue for some people and completely separate it from that
Mm.
and make it like still whimsical and very fun while also heartfelt because you know what issue it really is dealing with.
Yeah, and it doesn't really shy away from some of the issues. Like probably the most like the deepest line I've heard in animated, like the most gut punching, I guess. Probably the deepest line you get in an animated movie. It's like, "I loved you, but I should not have married you." Which is like, boy, I did not expect that to hear that in a kids movie.
What's the one where they're talking and he's like the Mr. Fox, he's like, oh, I need everyone to think I'm the best. And
Uh, that's also in the same scene. And
yeah,
that's when they drop the title.
that
I
I'm the fantastic Mr. Fox. Yeah.
yeah.
No. But that whole scene is like for a kids movie is ooh, it hits very hard.
Yeah, and I like how for a kids movie, again, remember, I know we're just not disparaging kids movies, because like they do have the ability to tell stories on, they can only be like, yeah, okay, just because it's a kids movie doesn't mean it's uh, ref, not immune of criticism. But it's very surprising when a kids movie like this has some very adult universal themes. Um because I don't know. I just like how this movie doesn't wrap everything up in a clean bow. No one's gonna be perfect, and doesn't end on a perfect note. Like the protagonist,
Mhm.
Mr. Fox, he makes mistakes. He causes an entire forest to be just destroyed, and and it also kind of refutes the idea of being yourself, because as he tries to settle with his wife, and like tries to basically be subservient to her, and raise a family, he's very unhappy. And when he tries to quote unquote be himself, like in The Incredibles, like tries to sneak off from his wife, it gets him into more trouble. So he can't really the idea is to find a middle ground. And even then, he's just a very flawed person, which very interesting.
Well, and it also kind of goes that kind of goes hand in hand a little bit with his son Ash, who is trying to live up to the person that his dad is the whole movie.
Yeah, and he gets
But
unfairly compared to the nephew, or
right,
cousin.
his cousin would be like his mom's nephew or something.
Mom's side. I remember that.
Yeah. But he's trying to compare himself to his dad the whole movie, but they keep saying, "Oh, he's like Ash is a little bit different," and we can talk about like what that means later.
Yeah.
But Ash is trying to be a bunch of things that he isn't, and then I mean, to be honest, at the end when he, breaks Christopherson out of the jail, he doesn't do it because he like is able to be
Hmm.
more like the people who are perceived as better than him. He does it because he fails at doing that, and
Yeah.
he pushes Christopherson off the side, and his cage breaks open, and he's able to get him out of there.
Yeah. He's imperfect, and sometimes that's okay.
Yeah,
Sometimes you can't do something that someone else does, but that doesn't make the quote unquote superior person, or the person that's better at everything you aspire to be, a bad person, because he doesn't intend to inflict all that conflict onto his life. He basically is just like, "Hey, man, I'm sorry. I still want to be your friend," and I didn't mean to. I think, was he stealing his crush, or I don't remember.
yeah, he was stealing his crush, and also his dad was like paying more attention to Christopherson because Christopherson
Hmm.
was like more athletic, like
Yeah.
he is.
Yeah. Again, it doesn't. The movie doesn't try to sugarcoat anything and say, deep down you can find your inner talent. It's just sometimes you don't have that talent that some people are looking for, and that's okay.
Yeah. So sometimes you don't. I think we should say sometimes you don't have the thing that you want from yourself or that other people would want from
Mm,
you. There probably still is something for you, but it's just
don't
not
worry.
going to be like what it might not be what you think it will be at all. And I think one other thing that I wanted to say from earlier is that the amazing thing about this movie as a kids movie is that I feel like most kids movies that also appeal to adults through like jokes. It's like
Yeah.
jokes that everyone can find funny, or like jokes with like a hidden meaning so that the adults can be like, oh haha, funny.
Yeah.
And so that way they can pay attention to the movie too. Well, it's really for the kids, but this movie actually feels like it's trying to get something across for everyone,
Yeah.
essentially. Um, and I mean like literally everyone, because obviously I mentioned about Ash being a little bit different. And there's some theories online that that's supposed to be like, a kid who stands out because they're like, I think one thing that I saw was trans, and I think it's just supposed to be like an LGBT person in general. Um,
Yeah.
like just somebody who is a part of that community. Um, I s- to me that kind of shows that this film is really trying to get something out there for everybody. Rather than just entertain certain people while the
Mm.
movie really is for other people.
Yeah. I could see that. Again, it's like it is what you make of it. Plus, okay. I know we're jumping all over the place, but that ending, with the wolf, because that's like a broad
Oh,
symbol.
yeah.
Yeah. What do you? Because that scene obviously symbolizes something. I've looked up what that means.
I actually forgot about it. I feel like I should have looked that up. But I don't know. I guess just thinking about it off the top of my head, it's like
Because Wes Anderson said that he wrote that movie just for that scene. Which is like that's like the basically it's a summation of the entire what the movie was going for.
so it's I guess off the top of my head, maybe it's supposed to be like a broad acceptance of like the older part of himself and like the like family man that he's supposed to be.
Mm,
Like they both hold up the fist at the he's very nervous to like come face to face with it, and then at the end they both like hold the fists up, and then the wolf
Yeah.
like trots off.
Um, yeah, he has trouble communicating with it.
Mhm.
Basically, he tries to communicate in different languages like English and then Latin. None of that works. So he
I thought it
decides
was French.
French, yeah, some kind of
Yeah.
language. Um, and it's just him looking at his wild side, or like just something that he could never be.
Mhm.
It's just a wolf that it has been not domesticated and doesn't live a life like he does. But they have some form of connection. I'm trying to remember the scene. So he just lifts up his fist, and it's just them kind of having some connection, but he ultimately walks away from it, and they drive in opposite directions. And I think in the background, it was like a winter. It was like, you know, they were obviously in the fall, and the wolf was in the winter.
Yeah.
I think that's him just coming to terms with the fact that he might be growing old. That's another way of interpreting it as well.
Mm.
So yeah, because his entire arc was just like coming to terms with his midlife crisis and seeing if he is able to accept himself.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. Um I mean, I was gonna add something, but it's to what I said. But you pretty much just said an expanded version of what I said.
Yeah.
I'm listen. I'm pretty good at media analysis. Not to toot my own horn or anything.
Yeah. Hey, ever since starting this podcast, it's our kind of our duty to do that.
Yeah, it's kind of like the whole thing. Every month, at least 2 times a month.
Yes. Um,
um,
yeah, but speaking about expansion, I just want to say, if you're reading the book after watching the movie, um, you will notice that the book, or really, they're completely different from each other. Um,
mhm.
and I,
I know. I read that Ash wasn't in the book, but that's like the only
yeah.
thing that I know.
Well, let's just say like most of the cast is in the book. Um, Basically, aside from the villains and then Mr. Fox's family, it's just no one. And also, I really don't like the book. Like, it's actually kind of boring. I don't know how this appeals to kids. This is probably a hot take, but like, basically, the book is just like, hey, we pissed off some of the factory men. Let's go dig a hole. Oh, they're catching up to us. Let's dig to the left. Oh, they're catching up to us again. Dig down, and then they dig into the fox hen, the chicken hen, and then they dig away from it, and I think that's just the end. I don't know what the point of it was. There's probably more to it. Maybe I'm obtusely describing it, but it's not my
You,
thing.
you read the abridged version of a children's book.
Probably. And I think after I watched the movie first and then I read the book, and then I was greatly disappointed by the book. And this is like, when I first watched the movie, I just didn't like it. The reason why I didn't like the movie was when I first watched it, because I found the pacing very, very fast, and I didn't get attached to anybody. And a lot of the themes didn't really appeal to how old I was, like 12 or 13 when I watched it. Didn't really appeal to me for reason. So maybe this movie didn't appeal to kids because it did not do well at the box office, unfortunately. Um, I don't know if kids will love this movie. When I certainly 13-year-old me did not like this movie, but you know, coming to this movie like 20 at the age of 22, now I'm understanding the nuances of it. Something that was absent in the book. The book basically this book walked so this movie could run, is how I'm gonna put it.
Yeah, I will say, as far as like kids not liking it, I think like it is possible that it would be less enjoyable for kids in general, but I also do think that the movie does a really good job of like making it obvious, making its themes reasonably obvious.
Mm,
Because as soon as that the conversation that we talked about happened between Mr. Fox and his wife, in the sewers, the one that hit really hard. Um, as soon as that conversation happened, I thought back to like everything from before then, like when, like at the very beginning of the movie, when Mr. Fox and his wife are going into like they're hunting chickens or whatever. They're like sneaking onto that guy's farm, and he's like, "Oh, do you want to do this or this?" And then she's like, "Oh, let's do this, I guess." And he's like, "No, this is way better
yeah.
for this reason." Like it immediately becomes clear. And so I think like I think like this is a movie, honestly, like that maybe older children could
Yeah,
watch twice, and then they would they maybe not fully understand, but I feel like they might appreciate it. Older children,
yeah,
um, but younger children, I could see not being very interested in this at all.
yeah. Yeah, I think it appeals to 12, 13. I know I didn't like it when I was 13 years old, but like, it appeals to that demographic, but they have that life experience.
Hmm.
Um, and it does have some very prescient themes that like would follow them to adulthood. And I do, again, I know we talked about this before, but I like how it's not so clean cut. The good guys are not necessarily perfect. And I am pretty sure Pixar is kind of straying away from that because I, yeah, I feel like we're getting away from the purely good heroes. I think in kids fiction, don't quote me on that. I don't cite me on that, but yeah, I feel like that's something good to tell the kids. Just like not everyone's perfect, and that's okay. And I get this movie is talking about a midlife crisis, but so did The Incredibles. The Incredibles was talking about that, and probably some other movie. Up like that came out in the same year. Like I don't think any kid's gonna relate to an old man losing his wife and wanted to go on an adventure. Um, but somehow it worked, and it could only be a kids movie because of that. Which I think that's why animation, and I think even through children's media, you can have themes that appeal to kids and adults.
And I think honestly, what we'll see as as the people who were very very young when like movies like The Incredibles came out, is we're gonna see like this. We'll probably see an even stronger nostalgia for it because a movie like The Incredibles or a movie like Fantastic Mr. Fox is dealing with like this very adult like midlife
Yeah,
crisis theme, and people who watched that when they were young and didn't quite, they liked the movie but it didn't
yeah,
quite connect with them. They're going to
liked
be
it for the spectacle.
right, there's going to be like I feel like there's going to be this wave of nostalgia coming as we get older and the
Yeah,
people our age get older.
yeah, and yeah, and this movie is very quirky. Even now watching it, so when I first watched it, I did roll my eyes. Like I don't know. I know I was trying to go anachronistic because like they played the Beach Boys a lot in this movie, and I'm like, oh, and I do like the Beach Boys. It's just like it does not fit with the aesthetic, in my opinion. But like it fits within Wes Anderson's directing style. I that's kind of a weird way of doing it, but
I
it's
feel
very
like
unique.
I feel like it worked as a an animated, I mean, well, stop motion movie.
Mhm.
Um, it's like I feel like if anything, quirkiness really works in animation.
Yeah, I guess.
Because it's such a kind of free, not necessarily free flowing, but such a medium that you can pretty much do anything you want with.
Yeah,
I mean, like look at adult cartoons like compared to children's cartoons. Like you
like
can do a
Arcane.
whole lot. I was thinking more like Smiling Friends, if you've seen that.
Wow. I did not expect you to reference that, but I was like,
It's
okay.
good.
I
It's
did not
good. Well,
expect.
I just mean like as far as like it's so out there. It's like reasonably abstract, but the
Mm,
abstraction is like confined within a realistic space. Like
grounded.
that
Yeah.
is something that you can only do in an animated style,
Mm,
really.
yeah.
And then compare that to like SpongeBob, which is this like kind of
Cartoon.
off the
Like,
wall cartoony character that everyone loves.
yeah. We
Um,
don't use the C
it's
word when we're talking about movies like this.
yeah, it's so it's such a broad spectrum, and I feel like quirkiness kind of fits
Yeah.
in a lot of different places on it
And I don't
for
know. Yeah.
animation.
It's just this movie's sometimes it gets too. Again, I have my problems with this movie because sometimes it gets too quirky. Um, Moonrise Kingdom. Again, I'm talking about movies, but like, there's so many good parts of the movie, and then there's so many parts where it gets so quirky that my brain just cannot handle it, and I'm just like, oh, stop it, please. Sometimes this movie veers into that territory, but like, it's too short for me to really complain. Yeah. But again, that's just my personal taste. I don't think this is a movie that I hate. I don't think this is a movie I'm gonna revisit. But like, this is a movie that I enjoyed watching, that I enjoyed revisiting. Um, and I don't know. I feel like there's a lot more to talk about, but it's not like not like Ernest Hemingway where it's like it's within 2 pages we can spend an entire episode talking about themes. It's just it's good. And I liked it for what it is. I think the cast is great. Willem Dafoe's in it. He played the rat. Just FYI.
Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't even know until I looked up the cast list after, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's
love.
how good Willem Dafoe is, I guess.
I just love how people. Oh, I just like. I really enjoyed how the animals die in this movie. Just like the X's on their eyes
Oh yeah.
immediately. With the dogs, I'm like, oh, good times. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything to say. I mean, I don't know if I will be watching any more Wes Anderson because the quirkiness always kills me. French Dispatch right now is on HBO Max. So if you want to check that out, Fiora and or Pierce, you could. I don't know what the reviews are for that. I don't feel like watching it, but you could.
People considered it a Oscar snub. If that, I mean, that kind of fills it in a little bit, I guess.
They say that for every Wes Anderson movie. Don't listen to the hipsters.
Well, okay, but listen, this time, oh god, what was that movie that got nominated? The one about like the meteorite hitting the earth.
Don't Look Up.
Don't Look Up. That movie did not deserve a nomination. That one is like the opposite of a snub. Like put any movie in that movie's place, and it would have been a better pick.
Yeah, I'm guessing that is true.
I'm guessing that is
true. I'm like, okay, because like
it's just it wasn't well received by critics, and it also wasn't well received by like normal people. So who did they nominate?
I think it's like the lowest rated movie on Rotten Tomatoes to get Best Picture. I think.
Yeah,
I believe so.
At least it was. It definitely was
that
year. Yeah. But I don't know about overall. I would guess so because I think it's got like a 50 or something on Rotten Tomatoes.
59, I believe, something like that. Not Best Picture worthy. But yeah, I don't have anything else to say. I think we covered all the bases. Yeah, I mean, this is the best midlife crisis movie there is for kids besides The Incredibles.
Yeah, well, I would say so because The Incredibles is about a lot more. Not to say that this movie isn't also, but this movie focuses on the midlife crisis for its main character, whereas I feel like the midlife crisis for The Incredibles is more of a plot device to get it rolling, and then it's about like the family coming together and stuff. But yes, it is also about a midlife crisis. I would just argue this movie is more about the midlife crisis.
And if you want a fun drinking game, take a shot every time someone says the word cuss.
Yeah.
And on that note,
and then you'll die, and we did not tell you to do that.
Yeah, we take our own responsibility.
Yeah. If you do it, that's your choice. We don't recommend it. It's just an option.
And don't do it with your kids.
Yeah, do not do the drinking game with your children. Anyway, is that it? Should I wrap up?
Yes, let's wrap up on that note.
You can find us on Twitter at NotJustAnyPod. We will find information on this show, as well as our other one, which is tabletop role playing game related, if you're interested in that kind of stuff. Also, whatever platform you I don't know what I'm saying. Whatever platform you listen to this on, please give it a rating, like whatever it is, a good rating. We really appreciate it. Really would help us out. And
next week or this week,
who
knows? Yeah,
coming up
is our first ever episode in German.
No,
it's Roald Dahl.
No, I read my book in German, but everything else should be in English. I read it in German because I'm learning, and it's a children's book, so I figured it would be a good opportunity to try. But anyways, Dankeschön, Auf Wiedersehen, Prometheus.
Yes.